Okay, so Mita, take me back before you joined RNT. What were some of the trigger moments for you to make you think, right, something needs to change now? What were your trigger moments?
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me on this podcast today, Akash. I'm excited to talk with you and all our followers. Um, so there's been a few moments that brought me to joining RNT. I would have to say the biggest moment that I recall was actually the summer of 2018. I had just finished my training in medicine. I was ready to start my new path in my career. And my husband and I had just gone on a cycling road trip in Italy. And it was phenomenal. We did we were cycling 40, 60 kilometers a day. We were very active, but keep in mind that we were also eating at every stop and having a lot of carbs and delicious food. And then after that trip, we stopped over in London to visit family and catch up with everyone. And I remember distinctly we were out for tea with the family and photos were taken of us. And I remember looking at one of the photos and thinking, oh my gosh, what has happened? Like, how did I let myself get to this point? And I just remember that I was so disappointed with what I saw. I had just been gone on a very active trip, and I thought of myself as being, fit and in shape. But then when I actually saw the photo, that didn't lie. And that really prompted me to try and make a better change. At that time, I wasn't aware of RNT, but my wedding was coming up a year from that point. So I knew I had to try and get into some form of shape. So I did try various different avenues, fad diets, intermittent fasting, all of that stuff. I did manage to drop some of the weight in time for the wedding, which was great. But after the wedding, I realized I'm still not quite where I want to be. And the spring before my wedding, we were also on a family trip, and that's actually where I met some previous RNT clients at that time, and they were friends with my sister-in-law who lives in the UK. And I remember talking to them, and they were saying how they did RNT, and they they were very successful with it. They got into a great shape. And how they had to weigh out all their macros, and they were talking about all of that, and they were quite pleased with the outcome. And so that was my first introduction to it. And I remember afterwards, I'm thinking, okay, nothing has really worked. I'm not happy and satisfied with where I'm at, and I need to do something about it. So that's when I signed up for RNT. But having said that, once I did sign up, I think you'll remember I kind of put off my actual start date by a few times. And I think I was supposed to start in January of 2021, but didn't actually start till October of 2022. And that was for various reasons. I wasn't settled in my life, but yeah.
2021, you mean? October 2021?
I believe so, yeah.
So what was going on in between there?
Yeah, so that's and I think that's important to also understand and where I was coming from. So I had just started my career. We had just settled down. We had finally had some stability in our lives, and at that time, we were renting a place. I didn't really have a great setup. We were moving between places, and I just felt like the timing. I wasn't able to focus on myself or my fitness. And I knew that when I wanted to start RNT, I wanted to give it my all. I wanted to go in 100%, do it right, so that I don't feel like I've set myself up for failure. And so we were waiting for our final house to be ready to move into. And the reason why I was waiting to move into that place is because we had actually planned out an amazing gym in the basement, because we knew that this was going to be our final place that we're going to settle down in. Fitness is very important to myself, and so I wanted to be in a place where I could have the tools ready and be successful at my journey. So that's why I kept putting it off, and I don't regret doing that, because when I did finally start my journey, I was all in, and I think that's what led me to where I am right now.
And what were some of your hesitations there? Was it that I don't have everything in place, my lifestyle is a bit scattered, etc.? On reflection, knowing what you
Absolutely.
know now, do you think
Yeah.
it could have been different?
I think I could have tackled R&T before having, moved into our new place, because there's ways to do it with weights at home, like dumbbells at home. There's ways to do it, going to the gym. But having said that, when the coronavirus breakout happened, gyms did shut down, and so your access and workouts are limited. But listening to other clients and other podcasts, you hear how people were successful at doing it at home. And I think that I did shortchange myself by challenging myself to do it. I think that back then I also didn't have that structure, right? My life was chaotic. I was just trying to figure out the pieces. I was just starting off, working in a new city, a new group, just trying to get my groundings right. And so I don't think that going all in with R&T would have, I don't think I would have given it my all. And that's what I was worried about.
Where did he move from and to?
So I currently live in Canada, and so I had moved from Calgary to Vancouver, and then finally to the middle of Canada to Saskatoon, and then within Saskatoon I was moving between different rental units until finally settling down. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving and packing and stress that was involved there.
Well, thanks for being so honest. I think it's one of those things when it is chaotic, it's hard to see how you could build a health and fitness lifestyle around it. And I know you did delay it, but it's good to know that knowing what you know now and knowing what the process that we use in R&T, it's all about developing that structure, strategy, and system for no matter how busy your lifestyle is. So thanks for being so honest. And if we just dig a little bit deeper into some of the biggest problems you faced before starting R&T, what were some of the big problems you had before, the big challenges you were facing? Why couldn't you get why weren't you feeling how you wanted to feel, look how you wanted to feel, and perform how you wanted to feel?
Absolutely. So I think we have to cycle back almost about a couple decades, ago. So growing up in a South Asian household, fitness and exercise and diet and nutrition were never really key elements. It was always focus on school, focus on studies. I hated gym class growing up. I could never, be active or get myself to do, to run or do any form of activity. And so education was always the forefront. And that's really where I spent a lot of my time focusing on. And I just remember growing up, enjoying food, loving the taste of food. And every time you would see family or friends, that was always the big focal point. I had an opportunity to live abroad in Indonesia. And so I would, the flavors, the food, the taste there were incredible. Visiting family in India, you're always, every time you visit relatives, you're always being fed things. And it's always good to, put on a little bit extra weight rather than being extra thin. So that was always how it was growing up. And then when after university, I put on sort of the freshman 15 with, eating food without realizing what you're consuming, the calories, the macros. And then I started medical school, and I remember the first couple weeks of medical school, sitting down and thinking, "Wow, I'm surrounded by all of these other brilliant people, but not only are they all so smart, but majority of them are extremely fit and active." I went to medical school in Vancouver, where a lot of people are running outdoors, skiing, doing all forms of sports. And so I remember looking around and being surrounded by all of these people. And that's actually what prompted me to start running. And so that was my first journey into fitness. And so I started running regularly. I started to feel great. It was a mode of stress release. And I'm proud to say that I ran my very first half marathon during that time. And so I've always been sort of an active person since then. And I'm proud to say that, exercising has definitely become a big part of my life. So I took up different activities after running, started, doing hiking, going to the gym, lifting weights, doing yoga. I tried all the activities, even, boutique boxing clubs and barbell,
Boutique
you name
boxing.
it.
That's a new one.
Yes. Yeah. It's where you box, you're in a studio where there's all the boxing bags, and it's, probably a group of 20 or 30 people, and you're boxing to music. And I found that was a wonderful form of activity. So the studio is called Rumble. It was in Calgary. And so that was wonderful. So exercise has been, a key component. But what my biggest problem and my biggest challenge was actually food. I would sort of define myself as a foodie. I love to try different cuisines, go to the latest restaurant, order the tasting menu. And, I enjoyed eating out, multiple times a week. And so I'll also preface with the fact that I'm also vertically challenged. So I'm 5'1", so I'm short. So, but I would still be able to consume probably the same amount as a 6-foot man. So I definitely love to eat my food and enjoy it. And I would often not think about the consequences. And I would eat out mostly on the weekends or for dinners, but I always thought myself as being, healthy because, I would still pack my lunches during the day. I would often make myself, healthy snacks like chia pudding or, fat bombs at home or, things like that. But you don't realize, fine dining and eating out is also impacting things. So I think the biggest challenge was understanding, dining out, being exposed to all the different new cuisines out there, and also understanding portion control. I think that was my biggest challenge. So yeah.
Amazing. So when you started RNT in October, how did you find the process to begin with, and the early sort of stages of the journey?
So when I started putting off my start date, I still tried to take things into my own hands. And so I remember following, the social media platforms for RNT. Your book had also been published. So I read the book. I started to educate myself. So I actually started to try and implement some of the RNT philosophy prior to me formally joining the group. So I found that was actually very helpful because it was almost like I was getting, a little bit of a flavor of it before really getting into it. And I think that was actually what really helped. So things that I did, for example, we always talk about, steps and walking. And so I started to, try and walk to work more. So get my steps in that way. I own 2 dogs and they need their exercise too. So that also, prompts me to go out for walks and go for even longer walks with them. So incorporating the steps into my daily lifestyle. The other thing that I also started to do was, start to read and understand a little bit more about nutrition and macros. So believe it or not, I did have a food scale in my kitchen that would just sit in the drawer for years prior to this. And then I started to, take it out, weigh things, look at nutrition labels, and really, appreciate what I was consuming and what I was doing. So I started to kind of incorporate that into my lifestyle. And then when I finally started RNT October of 2021, I I was able to take it to that next level. So I found it to be a nice, smooth transition. I remember writing to the coaches actually recently that I remember the first couple of emails that I received about, okay, this is your based on your height, your weight, everything that we've looked at, this is going to be your checkpoint, target. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? This is crazy. I don't know if I can do it. And I remember, getting my calories and my targets, and this is your meal plan. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I thought I was doing it right, but this is really how it's done. So, yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of really good points there in that. I find there's a really strong correlation between those who soak up the education before they read the book, they read the articles, they listen to the podcasts, and those who get results later on, because they come into it knowing what to expect. And I know you still said there was an element of surprise, and there's still the element of like, okay, wow, so I thought it was like this, but it's actually, wow, it's this. But you're still geared up in terms of the methodologies and the phases. And I think that's really helped. I think there's a really strong correlation between the two there. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then let's dive into the process then. So on that correlation factor, the other correlation is between those who are engaged with the process in terms of uploading the training videos, soaking up the education, attending the calls. I've noticed you're someone you tick all the boxes there, and there's no surprise that you've achieved incredible results so far. Talk us through that process of how you found getting started, but then really working through the weeks and months so far. We're recording this at the start of March, so it's been now over 6 months into the journey. So talk about how that process has evolved for you, and what's worked well for you, and what we found to be difficult and challenging.
So I think with this journey, what I've realized is you get what you put in. And, all of us who have signed up for this process, we've first taken that first step of acknowledging, we want to make a change for the better. And I think that's the first thing when it comes to forming any habit. You have to acknowledge that this is something you want to do, whether it's, quitting smoking or giving up drinking or what have you. You have to recognize that this is something you want to attain, but you have to put the work into it. And because nothing's just going to come, with you just sitting passive. And so that is the number one thing I realized is that, one thing I love about the R&T process has been the community, has been the support. And I love being able to see how other people are going through their journey. And I think we have to, cheer on everyone for their successes, and also recognize the failures and recognize that it's okay. We're human, but also realize how can we motivate people? How can we help them and provide them the tools? So I really like being part of the online community and sharing our experiences, because we're all going through this, on an individual level, but we're all trying to attain, and better ourselves. I've met some great individuals even outside of the group where we've been chatting sort of, on a one-on-one basis. There was, another client who was also trying to hit a checkpoint kind of around the same time as I was. And both of us were sort of motivating one another in terms of, okay, we got our steps, we got our calories, and, today's a bad day, or, oh, I got this event coming up. So that was also very, very helpful as well. So I think that the community has been helpful. Then you also have your coaches who support you and provide you with the guidance. And so when I started the journey, I think the one challenge I did have is there was a lot of information at first about, okay, this is how it's going to work. This is who you're going to communicate with. This is what's going to happen. And I kind of struggled a little bit just trying to figure out, okay, what's the system, what's the flow. But then once I kind of got into things after the first, 1 or 2 weeks, it started to all kind of make sense. But I remember reading the instructions at the get-go thinking, okay, how does this all line up? How does this all work? So it did take a little bit of time, but then once you got into it and actually try it out, it worked quite well.
What do you say to people who they might say, "Oh, but I don't want to share my challenges. I don't want to share. This is personal. I don't want to." Like, what do you say to these people? Because I know the power of proximity is power to me, and sharing challenges with other people who are also on this journey. There's so much power and leverage to that it can just skyrocket your results. So, give us some tips for those people.
Absolutely. It's very hard to open yourself up and be vulnerable, right? A lot of us, we are human beings. We're sensitive to critique. But I think that we can all get constructive feedback by doing it. And, it also depends on how much you're opening up. I won't, necessarily disclose nitty gritty details of my personal life or things like that. There's a time and a place for things like that, but I think it is important to kind of open up and say, okay, today was a bad day. I had a lot of these stressors, and I felt maybe I was going to the pantry and going for the chocolates a little bit more, and it is what it is, right? And just posting it out there. And then I think I've seen a lot of people do that on the Facebook group, where they do, express their ups and downs. And it's amazing, though, to see that people are still supportive, right? And I think that without engaging with others, without putting yourself out there, you're also not going to get that feedback and that support in terms of, okay, recognizing what happened and overcoming those obstacles. So I think that this is a very unique and amazing process that I've had a personal trainer in the past, for example. So at the gym, I've had a personal trainer where it was just a one-on-one session, and mind you, it was great. That's where I learned my technique in the gym, how to engage certain muscles, how to set things up properly, warm things up. I think that was extremely important, but that was just a one-on-one exercise. But I never really got a chance to talk to others. How are you progressing on your lifts? What are you doing outside of the gym to help you? You don't have that sense of community. So I think that by posting online, by talking to others, it's motivated me. I love logging in and seeing what people have written, seeing what other people are doing. I remember the first time I videotaped myself doing exercises. I was like, this is crazy. Well, I don't want to see myself doing these lifts. I'm quite embarrassed. And then let alone to post this online for other people to see. I don't know if I can do this. So I was actually quite nervous the first time I did that. But actually, once I videotaped myself doing my exercises, it gave me such incredible feedback, because I could actually see what I was doing. I could immediately see and correct my movement. And it's very powerful when you do, post it online, and then you get the feedback from your coaches, because how else are they going to tell you to improve? But they're not physically standing there next to me. So I encourage everyone during this process to engage as much as possible.
Amazing. Now, on the topic of challenges, from a mental and emotional perspective, you've talked about where you were physically. Where were you before the process with regards to mentally and emotionally? How did you feel within? And how has that progressed so far in this journey?
I think that's a very key point, because yes, we're talking about sort of the physical transformation, and I'm pleased to say that I have seen that happen, and it's a very tangible result, right? I feel that during this process as well, it's also helped me, stabilize my emotions, deal with stress a lot more. And it's also allowed me to maximize and value my time. I think that's been the really important thing. What I mean by that is I now put myself as a priority. And I feel that by bettering myself, I'm able to help others, my relationships with others, my patience at work. I feel like I'm a lot more calm. I'm able to understand my thought processes a little bit better. I've also tried to eliminate a lot of negative thoughts as well. So that's really helped me evolve as a person. And the biggest change that's happened is, I am not a morning person by any means. I would hit the snooze button nonstop. I've done that for as long as I can remember. I've always had this goal of, being an early riser, and, you always hear about successful people waking up early and maximizing their days. And that's always been my dream, but I've never been able to attain it. But with RNT, I wanted to get my training sessions in. I had a lot of things I wanted to accomplish during the day, and the only way to do it was really to wake up early and get it in, get my sessions in the morning. And so that was one of the biggest things that changed for me. Was I was able to, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I put an actual alarm clock in the bathroom, so I'd actually have to physically get out of bed and turn the thing off. And so after a couple of days of doing that, that just started to become routine. And I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to go wake up, have my coffee, go downstairs and start my session. And that, to me, I feel like almost going and doing that has almost become like it's so structured, but it's almost like I'm in a meditative state. I don't think about anything else except that I'm focusing on myself. I'm here. This is my time. And then after I'm done with that, I'm ready to seize the day. I feel stronger. I feel, refreshed. I'm ready to deal with any challenges. And so, it's really helped me, in the bigger picture. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing. Do you know what part of the process specifically has helped you for this role? And it's one of those weird questions where it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. But if you had to say one thing, what would you say has been the biggest catalyst for you to feel more emotionally full?
I think just going through this and being able to recognize that I can challenge myself and I can attain these goals. But not only have I seen improvement in myself, but I've started to see it in others as well. So, my husband's also very much into health and fitness, and I see that he has been also making some positive changes in his life. Even friends, family, colleagues, they notice things as well. And so I think that, that's really what's made me realize that it's not just, they're not seeing my six pack or my, my muscles or my, all of that. They're seeing that, I've changed as a person. Even one of my colleagues at work said, you're so much more calm. Like you're at ease. And she's like, I like what I'm seeing. Like, what is it that you're doing? Right. So the fact that I'm able to kind of influence people in a positive light has really, you feed off of that. And I think that's my catalyst right there. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And one thing that, I mean, that segues really nicely into what you do for a living. You're a medical oncologist, and the concept of creating health for yourself, but also health for those around you, and generational health is obviously very important to you. In what you do, how much do you see fitness, nutrition playing a part in some of the risk factors involved with various different cancers and diseases that you deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. And I think, what we're definitely starting to realize is how important lifestyle factors play in developing chronic diseases, cancers, and other health issues. I deal with patients with cancer, mainly breast cancer. And even prior to the RNT process, I'm talking to and dealing with their treatment, their chemotherapy, etc. But then after we're sort of done, their journey, I always try to put a little bit of a plug in terms of lifestyle modification, because that is huge in terms of not only prevention, but curing them from cancer. And so I always try and, discuss things like, diet, exercise, alcohol cessation or reduction, and smoking cessation as well. All of those factors, I don't think that we as a community spend enough time talking about it, addressing it. We don't have, I wish I had more time with each and every one of my patients to really sit down and emphasize how important these modifications can be. And I think that, going through this process and this journey, it's really educated myself in terms of these lifestyle modifications, but it's also a matter of how do I try and relay it to my patients. I often try and, simplify things for them. I try and say, you don't need to follow, a strict diet and cut out, a macro. Like a lot of people will ask me about, well, what about ketogenic diet? I hear that cures cancer. But by cutting out a macro, that's not going to help with the cancer, let alone your health, right? So I always try and talk about, you want to get your three major sources: your protein, carbs, your fats. I often say follow the Canada Health Food Guidelines, because it has also become a little bit more plant-based. And then one of the other tips I also provide to my patients is I say, when you go to the grocery store, try and shop and eat the food that's around the perimeter of the grocery store, because that's where all your fresh fruits, your lean meats, and your healthy carbs will be. Try and avoid the center of the grocery store, because that's where all your processed food will be. So I try and incorporate that in with all of my discussions, because I think that it's important for people to recognize that, what you eat can impact so much, in your body and in your life. We also talk about a healthy BMI and a healthy weight. Obesity is running, rampant. And I think that this is something that we need to educate our, not only my patients, but just the general population about, portion control, diet, nutrition, labels even. So I try and spend that time with my patients, but I wish I could do more.
Well, if you were to say to them one thing here, you said to them, go and listen to this podcast that I've done with RNT, what would you want to say to them right now? What are some tips that they can take from this to help them, whether they've, whatever the chronic disease that they're suffering from is, or at risk of?
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway point is that, we all want to be the best version of ourselves, and we need to also be provided with the tools in order to succeed and to apply it on a day-to-day basis. And I think that, even though I have, a background in medicine, I've sort of, know a lot of the biology or the basic science of it. It's how do we actually apply it to day-to-day life? I think that's really the important thing, is that we are able to challenge ourselves and be better. And sometimes we just need to be pointed in the right direction and given the tools to know this is what you need to do. I think about it a lot, and I wish things like nutrition, finances, taxes, all of that stuff was taught to us in high school, if not earlier, because I think these are so applicable to day-to-day life. So I think if anyone is watching this or listening to this, I think that we all have the ability to challenge ourselves to be better.
Amazing. You mentioned plant-based a bit earlier, and I know we've had a few offline discussions around your entry into a little bit more plant-based. Talk us through that experience and what's triggered it, apart from watching my videos, of course.
Your videos have been quite inspiring, but I've actually always thought about going more plant-based for quite a while. And I think your videos have definitely, hit home for me. But I think probably the biggest one, which I'm sure for a lot of people listening to this, was watching that Netflix documentary on game changers. And of course, there's been some other documentaries on there as well that have really have been, eye-opening in terms of what the meat industry is doing, not only for our health, but on a more bigger and global aspect when it comes to climate change. And so those, educating and myself and seeing those documentaries really shifted my mindset into, maybe there is an opportunity for me to make a small difference in the world. So even leading up to that, I was in the process of cutting out dairy, for a few years prior to that. The primary reason of doing that was more so for health. So for example, my husband was having really bad gastritis. He had scopes done multiple times. They were all normal. He was on medicine twice daily. Nothing was working. And I said, I wonder if you have maybe some inflammation. Maybe we need to do a diet, elimination challenge, because it's been shown that dairy, nuts, and seeds can cause kind of inflammation in your esophagus. So let's try cutting it out. So at first I thought, okay, this is going to be hard. I don't know how we're going to do this. But anyways, we cut out dairy, and next thing you know, he is off of his medications. He no longer has gastritis. I did the same thing with him because I wanted to be supportive. So I also cut out dairy, and I felt my skin cleared up, my gut felt better. I thought, oh my gosh, this is remarkable. So I cut out dairy, leading up to it. And then when you kind of start hearing about the meat industry, climate change, everything like that from all these documentaries, I thought, okay, maybe now we need to take it a little bit of a step further, right? And so I essentially started cutting out, cutting down on meat. So I didn't cut it out completely. So I became more of a flexitarian. So I would try and only consume meat, a couple of times, during the week. And personally, also, I hate, cooking and touching meat. That's always been my biggest thing. I don't like dealing with that in the kitchen. So for me, it actually worked out quite well. So it was actually fun, looking into different recipes, getting different cookbooks, and trying things out in the kitchen. So I kind of was making that transition to being fully plant-based. And when I kind of started my journey with R&T, I did consume a little bit more meat than I usually do, mostly as, once again, to get the adequate protein intake in. But then, having seen you go through your journey, and reading other books out there as well, and seeing how we have this notion that protein must come from meat sources, but yet there's so many high performers, athletes, other people out there who are getting adequate protein from all of these other sources. It's absolutely doable. I thought, okay, maybe I can make the full transition. And so now, I'm in that process of fully eliminating meat from my diet. And yeah, and I feel amazing. And I did that kind of at the start of my consolidation phase. And I would have to say I'm quite pleased with the results. I feel great. My gut is happy. I feel, good for the environment as well. When I'm going and buying my beans and sprouting them at home, and I think it's been a phenomenal change, and I don't miss meat. I don't have any cravings for it either. So I think it's definitely been a great change, and I think that a lot of people are becoming more aware of going plant-based. And I think it's something that we can not only do to help improve our own individual health, but as I said, this is going to help with climate change and everything. In fact, I just read a quote recently in an article, and they said that in order to prevent the next pandemic, we need to give up eating meat. Because when you think about it, all the previous pandemics all arose from zoonotic viruses, right? So coronavirus came, likely from bats, H1N1, swine flu, avian flu, they all happen because we as human beings are living in close proximity with other animals that we usually aren't,
Yeah.
And so I think, so from a bigger picture, I think plant-based has been amazing from all aspects.
I think anyone who's interested in health and fitness, especially the fitness aspect, once you can get over the fact that you can still get the same results without the ethical, the moral, the environmental, the climate change impact, then it's so much easier to make the switch or to at least reduce your impact. I think that's the key thing. It's like one thing we talk about on episode 3 is of the road to vegan shredded is you don't need to be absolutist about this whole thing. It doesn't need to be all or nothing. You can just make small impacts. Like, I'm not going to have meat 7 days a week. I'm going to have it 3 days a week. This all adds up. And I think once you can realize that you can get the same results with your fitness without eating animals and eating fish and having dairy, it makes it so much easier, because that's what held me back for so long. I was ethically, I had that dilemma in my mind for so many years, but I kept thinking, well, health and fitness is now my number one priority in life. I don't want to impact the gains because I can't eat much protein, or I don't get the minerals from meat that you should normally get. But I found that it's not the case. And, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I've held more muscle during a diet than I've ever before. And I'm fully sold on the process of doing it for your fitness. So for me, it's like that fitness aspect is now clear. So I don't face that ethical dilemma anymore.
Absolutely. I think it's fabulous hearing, your process, your journey, and how you've hit a lot of PRs, and you've been extremely successful doing it on a plant-based diet. You've essentially shattered the notion that we need to get all our nutrients from animals, and this is we're hunter gatherers. This is where we evolved from, right? I'm also reading the book at the moment, The Plant-Based Athlete, and that's also been extremely insightful in terms of seeing how these athletes are reaching their peak physical performance with just eating getting their fuel from plants. So I think it's been absolutely incredible. The other thing too that I also love about this is my husband and I, before, as I mentioned, we were foodies. We would go out to eat a lot and try the new restaurants and try different foods. But now that we are both actually going plant-based, we are spending more time in the kitchen together, planning our meals together. And on the weekends, we will try and plan a meal that's a little bit outside of our meal plan per se, and maybe do something a little bit more creative. And so it's been really great, from a relationship standpoint. We're doing it together, spending time, talking with one another, and just being in the kitchen. It's quite lovely. And then when the weather gets better here, we'll start going to the farmers market. So I think it's been a really positive change.
Amazing. And you said you've done this during consolidation. Talk us through how consolidation has been. You hit your checkpoint a couple of weeks ago, which is amazing, and you look amazing. How have you navigated consolidation, the critical period?
So I was quite pleased when I hit my checkpoint, and I did. I had a strong goal in mind, because I did what you told everyone not to do. I hit my checkpoint. And I went on holiday, and of course I went on an all-inclusive vacation. So, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? But I really needed this vacation from, a mental standpoint. I needed some vitamin D. I needed to get away for a little bit. But you know what? It was a really good, test for me, And so I went away on holiday, and I managed to take the strategies that I learned from R&T and apply it when I went away. And I think the biggest thing I realized during this journey is that you have to have structure in your day, and you have to be able to plan things out. And you are in control. You make your own choices, right? No one's telling you what to do. And so when I was away on holiday, I still managed to, wake up early in the morning, get in a workout, get my steps in, and then I still enjoyed and ate the food there, but I wasn't focused on the food or the drink. I was trying to enjoy the flavors, the local fruits and everything, but I was also very mindful and cognizant about what I was eating, and looking at it more as I'm fueling my body. These are the nutrients, and yes, maybe I'll have a dessert here and there, but I'm not going to indulge or eat excessively. And so I think that was the biggest mind shift. And I think back to when I'd previously go on vacation, and you eat as if there's no tomorrow, right? When you go on the all-inclusive vacations, you drink all the alcohol available, all the sugary drinks, and you come back having put on 5-10 pounds, and you think, okay, what happened? Whereas when I came back after vacation, I think I put on maybe 1 or 2 kilos, but immediately after a few days, once I got back into my usual routine, it all settled down at a steady weight. And so I've been in consolidation now, and I know that going into it, and I think this was also an important aspect, is by listening to the podcast, reading the book. I've read the book multiple times. Every time I'm on a certain phase, I'll read that chapter again. But I think the biggest thing was you telling us consolidation is one of the hardest parts, right? Getting through the process, getting through your checkpoint can be, quote unquote, easy. But once you're at consolidation, that's the hard part, right? And I think going into that and having that mindset, being like, okay, brace yourself, get ready for it, but you know what to do, right? And I think that was the important aspect of, okay, I've hit this goal, but now I need to maintain, and this is what I'm going to do. And also the other important thing is, when you're going through the process and going through the journey, enjoy the journey, right? Enjoy the moment. Every day I had so much gratitude for the fact that I was able to wake up, go for a walk, exercise, be able to buy food and have delicious food every day. I think that I enjoyed every moment of the process, that I wasn't counting down to okay, I can start counting down my steps, and I can start stopping my workouts and eat all my calories. I think because I grew to love the process, it made consolidation a lot easier. I remember once I was close to hitting my checkpoint, and once I did hit my checkpoint, a lot of my friends were saying, oh, I'm so excited, now we can go out and enjoy a bottle of wine, and now you can eat all the calories, and now we can go out to a restaurant and do all this. And I said, oh, well, we can still get together and still go out to a restaurant and enjoy each other's company, but I'm not going to have a bottle of wine. And they would just look at me and they'd be like, but you've hit your point. Like, can't we go and do this? I'm like, it was interesting to see what my mindset was compared to others. So,
and how do you feel from like a lifestyle solution mindset perspective? In that, do you feel like you're missing out? Do you feel like you're restricted? Do you feel how does that feel?
Yeah, I think that's really important, because and I think there's been some really good educational tools on this. And I think one of my favorite articles written by R&T is how to deal with eating out, right? And I do not feel like I am missing out on it at all. I think my mindset has shifted to, when I'm out with friends or out at a restaurant or something, I'm there to spend quality time with others that I want to be with. And no one cares what you've ordered and what you're eating and what you're doing. I will sometimes now be very nitpicky when I order at a restaurant. I'll ask and make sure, is this steamed, or, can you not add oil, or, I'll be one of those people when I'm ordering. But once you're sitting down and eating, and even if I order a Diet Coke and no alcohol, no one cares. You're there to spend time with others. And I think through this pandemic, everything that's going on in the world, you start to realize what is important. It's not, the food that's going to be in front of you, they're going to eat in 10 minutes. It's spending that quality time with others. So I absolutely don't feel like I'm missing out at all. I'm still living my life to the fullest. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell me, how's the physical been the vehicle for you?
I think the key thing for the physical being the vehicle is that this has been an incredible process. I'm so grateful and happy, where I've come. And yes, this has been a complete tangible, goal I have reached. And I look at my before and after photos, and I'm still, thinking that cannot be me. But what it has provided me with is a lifestyle solution for the future. It's provided me with structure in my life, which has ultimately allowed me to, have a little bit more freedom, spend more time doing other things that I enjoy. And it's also given me the self-confidence and the strength to also help influence other people in a positive direction. And I think that, this has definitely been a life transforming journey. And I'm happy to continue on with this. I foresee, myself being able to tackle many challenges in the future, whether it's from a fitness perspective or within my career. I think that this has definitely been a very positive journey.
Amazing. And if you're speaking to someone who's early on in their journey right now, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
First off the bat, congratulations. I think this has been the first step in making an investment in yourself. And I think that by signing up for this journey, just trust the process, go all in, and enjoy the process, and have gratitude for every moment, because you will look back and think, why didn't I sign up sooner?
And speaking on that, what almost kept you from starting RNC? I know you had a few delayed starts, but what almost kept you from even making that first move?
I think I was nervous, thinking, am I going to be successful? Am I going to be able to be like the testimonial clients that have reached their shining moment? I think I was nervous that I wouldn't be able to do that. I thought, once again, being from a South Asian background, I'm thinking that I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. In my mind, it was ingrained that I will never be able to look like that. But I think that was the biggest reason why I actually chose RNT, versus other programs, is I was seeing other people that looked like me attain their goals. And that for me was huge, because I realized it's not genetics, it's not, background, it's what you put into it.
And on that, what then pushed you over the line? What made you think, actually, I can do this? I can do it? Because that's a really big step. And I think when I speak to most people, the biggest thing holding them back is fear. They know why this is important to them. They know what could be done, but they're still, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I deserve it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I fail. But how do you then take the jump?
I think it was seeing how many successful clients were coming out of RNT, and hearing their stories. That's actually what really motivated me. I did start listening to the podcast regularly, and it was my form of almost escape. And just hearing, okay, great, they would, get to a healthy, weight, and they were in photo shoot ready form, and they were in the best shape of their life. That's great. But also hearing how it transformed other areas of their life, and realizing that there's just so much more to just the physical part of it. That's really what I realized. Okay, I think I can do this. This is more of a holistic approach rather than, just getting shredded.
So Mita, what's next for you then on this journey?
So I feel like I've been able to achieve the goals I've set out for myself, and I'm always trying to challenge myself, to the next phase. And I'm quite happy to see where I've gotten in terms of my checkpoint. But what I'm hoping to do is maintain for a little bit more, get comfortable where I'm at, and then look at building more muscle, and just getting stronger in the gym. When I'm doing my lifts, and when I'm doing an RDL or a hip thrust or a squat, the reason why I love doing it is because as a female, lifting this type of weight, it not only makes me feel strong, but it just exudes a lot of confidence. And I think that I want to continue hitting, my personal bests in the gym, and seeing what I can push my body to do. And so I'm really excited to do that in the future. So I'll take the guidance from my coaches, and hopefully the last photo shoot I did won't be the last one.
Amazing. I always think it's great when women especially enter the investment phase and they want to build strength, they want to build muscle, and they want to sort of shatter some of those self-limiting beliefs around what you can do physically as well as mentally. Well, listen, you've done amazing in your journey so far. It's been incredible watching you transform. We're now going into the investment phase soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing you continue to progress and continue to achieve remarkable things in all areas of your life.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, Mita.
Thanks, Akash.